What's going on, everybody? How you doing? In today's video, we are doing the Rush 2002 Vapor Trails interviews. I split this into two parts. You know, I don't like to do the insane long videos if I don't have to. I like to have it a certain, amount. Anyways, I cut it up into two parts. So two videos, one today, one tomorrow. And then I think that I'm going to have a surprise on the following day. I know that I haven't done my overview yet. You've probably noticed, being that this is what's out. I think the more that I read the comments and, I haven't fully sat with this record long enough yet after listening to it the first time for a few different reasons, just things that are going on with me outside of all of this, family getting sick and me getting sick and things like that. I feel a little behind. But also from the comments, I think I'm gonna surprise you with something. Some of you will be happy, some of you will not be. What else is new? But it may be good for me, and I'll probably be sick of it by the end of it, but it's whatever. I'll do it anyways. Because I'm crazy. So this is the first part of this interview. Let's get to this. Bam.
You guys are sort of famously conceptual in terms of your approach to albums. Talk a little bit about what you set out to do this time.
More than any record, this was a really hard one to finish. It was probably the most difficult mixing session I've ever experienced in my life, for a whole boatload of reasons. Mm-hmm. And I just looked at it like a test. Alex and I kept saying to each other, let's just keep our eye on the ball here.
Yeah. And we had to work hard at that.
Let's be calm and be patient and just keep focus on what we want. And no matter what other pressures are coming to play, the record was late in delivery and management and everybody, wondering what the hell we're doing out there. But at the end of the day, we had to just see it through. And by the time it was finished, I was just a mess, just a wreck. And so I'm just starting to come back to life now, so I can't say that I have any real perspective on the work at all.
Yeah, I broke away from it. I didn't, after listening to it every day for 13 months, I put it away when, we got our test pressings back after mastering and decided not to listen to it for a couple of weeks. And then listened to it, and I was really proud of the songs. The system that I listened on was just a little Walkman on a beach in Hawaii.
Okay. The setting,
my headphones.
The setting very nice.
But on a beach in Hawaii.
But I listened to the songs,
Nice.
And I didn't care about how anything sounded. And I was really moved by the work that we did. And that was my first moment of really feeling satisfied with the work that we did. And of course I called Geddy, and he was pulling his hair out and freaked out. I hate this record. I can't stand it. It sounds terrible to me. I said, don't listen to it.
I know
Put
why.
it away. Don't listen to
Sorry.
it. For at least a couple of weeks and then come around to it.
We used to joke about, how do these guys spend, a year or 2 years on a record? How do they stay
That used to be normal,
focused?
like more than normal.
How do they still care about it? Now I know.
You guys have known each other.
Right.
Played together
Yeah,
for
that's what
many
he's saying,
years,
right.
Obviously, what is that dynamic like? Situations coming up, as in Neil's life, where you mentioned where his wife and daughter, both died. Just contending with those kinds of things after the passage of time. Does it get easier? Does it get harder?
I think that whole experience really drew us together. We became very close. We supported Neil as much as we could in the immediate aftermath of that event. And we realized, I think, how important we are to each other. With this project, communication was very important, and we spent really a lot of time reestablishing communication and basically starting from scratch in a lot of ways. And our communication, the way the two of us worked together, was really remarkable this time around. We absolutely trusted each other and had a newfound respect for each other's strengths. And it made things less competitive than maybe it was in the past. And we were so focused on what we wanted this record to be and how we wanted it to evolve and develop.
There was a trust, and after all that Neil had gone through, I believe he felt that trust. He felt he could trust us, and that he would be, you know, okay. And you know, he needed to build his confidence, and he was in the process of building a new life for himself. So that came first, and then from there we had the other communication of as musicians. That was, well, you know, we've made so many records together. How do we take an angle on this that still feels fresh to us, that still feels like it's worth doing, you know, that we can still contribute something new? All those things took time. And we talked it out, and we just started to play. And, you know, I think we worked for about 3 or 4 months, and we had some music together that wasn't really knocking us out. And we took a break. And when we came back together, it was just like we just gotten all that out of the way, and something happened that we just clicked in a mode, and Alex and I were jamming and really excited by the way we were playing together. So I think that 3 or 4 months of frustration and experimenting and talking and writing bad music, and
There was plenty of it.
you know, we just needed to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, you just cannot be a band for 600 years and then come back and expect that everything's just as it was before.
That degree of struggle that you're describing is really nowhere evident on the record. I mean, when you listen to it, it just sort of comes in at a very high level of intensity and pretty much stays there, you know, and you know, you wouldn't certainly have a sense of the kind of travails that you're describing.
Well, we threw those
which I
ones
think
out.
is the whole thing.
Right.
Which is, I guess, the point, you know.
But I think the record has a passion and an emotional quality to it that is missing in some of our other records, or is not at the same degree. At least to my ear, when I listen to the music from this album, it has, maybe because I was there, but it has
You were?
a quality about it that's, you know, a mixture of blood, sweat, and tears that when I listen to some of our other records doesn't have. Part of it has to do with having no scheduled deadline, working on it until we were happy with it, until we felt it was finished. In the past, we've always worked to a schedule. We've toured, made a record. We, you know, give ourselves 4 months or 6 months to write, record, and release a record, and you sort of work within those parameters. Not having that one particular type of pressure made a big difference in how I think we expressed ourselves and allowed ourselves to express ourselves.
I mean, the bottom line was that it had to be great, and we, you know, if not to anyone else, at least to us. And then you start becoming your own worst enemy, but also you're hoping you're your own best friend at the same time, because you're pushing yourself to a point. You know, there's a couple of different problems when you get that deep inside a record. You know, there's the whole loss of objectivity, you know, which you write off as a pursuit of excellence, kind of.
That's why you need somebody else, a producer.
Which, you know, because you're obsessing over details. And you start making details seem very important, which is why you usually have a producer, so you can reel you in. And this time we decided really to be our own producer. And
which is,
you know, pretty well worked for the most part, but you know, it enabled us to tap into something very specifically that we wanted to get right or wrong, and I think that was intensity. There was a certain intensity we wanted, and we wanted it to maintain, and you know, whether anyone liked it or not, that's kind of what we wanted to see through. One night he had come in and he'd thrown a bunch of guitar things down, and I came in the next day and I listened to them, and they were insane, but I really liked them, which is kind of what Alex does best, is do these greatly insane guitar parts. But it wasn't very song-like. It was just kind of
Bits and pieces.
Bits and pieces. And it stayed with me. And so I just kind of filed it away in my mind. And then a piece of lyric came along down the road that connected with me, and I thought, well, there's something about the spirit of that lyric and the spirit of some of these guitar bits that feels like they should be together. And one day I just kind of sat down. I don't even think you were around that day.
No.
And I just sort of went crazy with all these bits and started forming something and following my instincts, and it eventually formed a kind of version of that song, and I played it for Alex, and he just loved it. So that's kind of how that song came to be. There were so many great spontaneous moments in the jams that were very inspiring. That, you know, we went through and we sorted them out as to moments that could possibly give birth to becoming songs. That whole middle section, really, in a way, is very spontaneous. That long jam section is all made up of things that we just kind of started throwing at each other while we were playing. The lyrics are very personal, and they tell a really kind of melancholy story. And I really wanted to do it proper justice. It's a great image, the Ghost Rider. It's very evocative. And so it just took a lot of writing and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting until something finally clicked, both lyrically and musically. And there's probably more man-hours spent on that song than any song. That's the last song we wrote on this piece, on this project.
Which was earmarked to be an instrumental, oddly enough.
Yeah, but there was something about it that we were working with Paul Northfield, who was helping us kind of co-produce and engineering, and the music was very powerful, and it hit him very hard, and he kept insisting that we have to get some lyrics for that, make it come to life in a more complete way. And so Neil started working on this concept of Peaceable Kingdom, and it just really came together very late in the day. You know, we'd pretty well finished the record, and he plopped these lyrics in front of me, and it just really struck me, and gave me some really interesting ideas to play around with vocal harmonies and try to stack a different kind of song. It's hard to tell what's the verse, what's the chorus, like, they're all verses, they're all choruses, they're all bridges, you know. That's a song that came along on the early side.
Yeah.
And it actually came together pretty quickly. And it was really a lot of fun to put the choruses together, to really indulge the harmonic side of things. And, you know, it was one of those songs that I doubt we'll ever be able to reproduce live, because there's like 16 vocal harmonies on each chorus. But it was really fun for me as a vocalist to do that song and to write those melodies, try to evoke that, you know, feeling of, you know, when you're just overwhelmed by everything, overwhelmed by the world, overwhelmed by existence, you know, like, what is going on? Why is this happening to me? You know, you're desperately trying to cling to terra firma, you know. When we put it together, it was pretty straightforward and, you know, kind of a very singable song.
Yeah.
And we went through a period where we tried to produce it.
Yeah.
And we realized it just didn't require it. It just is what it is. Just
Yeah.
let it just be.
I must have gone through 4 different stages of guitar work on that before realizing what was there in the beginning was what was charming about the song. And then it was just a matter of enhancing that, building around it through the use of acoustic guitars and mandola to give it a flavor. But the original sense of what the song was about and was fine.
We had those lyrics for a really long time, and I had a real hard time finding the right road to go down with them. And I remember I tried applying those lyrics to various pieces of music, and boy, did it ever feel wrong. 3 or 4 of the right atmospheric chords, and that melody just came out of me. And suddenly the whole song made sense. That you just have to wait it out, and you have to just give it its due respect until you find the piece of music that brings it to life. From a musical point of view, it's kind of it's a big sandwich, that song.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on in it, and there's something very quintessentially Rush about that song, especially how it goes off the deep end in the middle. It's very much reduces you know, all the musing and all the pondering and all the directionlessness and the aimlessness back to a visceral touchstone, you know, that human to human thing that gives you
a secret
the
touchstone?
context for everything, you know, puts everything into perspective.
It's one of those songs on this album that's very, very connected to the lyrics, I think. It really comes across. It's very from the gut and very emotional.
That's my single favorite guitar sound on the whole record, that verse. I love that verse part, and I love that guitar sound.
It was the first song, and I think we always felt that it was kind of what got us back into writing mode, and it was never that precious to us.
The music was completely different.
Yeah, completely different.
We basically threw it out and started over again once Alex had this riff that he came up with, which was...
Well, we jammed on the riff. You know, it came from that 2-week period of solid jamming. And I know that I came in one day, and Geddy had assembled all these pieces from that jam, and said, "I have an idea. Go away." And I loved it. I came back a couple hours later, and he'd thrown some vocals down, and it became earthshine.
Can a circumstance save you? Yes. That is the answer in that song. And there's something very simple about that song, and I think something we wanted to keep quite simple about it. And it was, again, one of the first things we wrote. I love that song. I think it's a really interesting song, but it's hard to categorize because it's such a spaced out tune in a way. But I think it's pretty evocative of that whole, what can you learn in the middle of the night when you're sound asleep? What can you learn about yourself, and when you wake up in the morning after a night of, you know, adventurous exercise of your brain, is there a residue that can help you in your life? And I think that can be the case. Sometimes your dreams can help you work something out, and you wake up in the morning and you go, yeah, okay, I know what to do now, and on with it. And that's kind of what that song is. That's almost entirely a jam, that song.
Yeah.
That we did this one jam that we looked at each other and went, wow, it's
got to be something
this
there.
is relentlessly angular. You know, there was such a great groove to it. And, I mean, I think you play one chord through the majority of that song, but all the melodies revolve around it. And without it, if that guitar chord had changed with all the melodies, it would be way over the top and too hard to absorb. It may already be too hard to absorb, but it's just kind of a strange jam and kind of an experiment in melodic dissonance in a way, that whole chorus section.
Very uplifting, very positive, optimistic in the end. Rocks right to the end in a very sort of classic sense.
It is a little repetitive towards the end, but it's kind of okay, you know. It's like a real long jam, and it just rocks out. And
it's sunny and
it's like the way the album begins kind of with a real fury, and it kind of goes out with a fury, but it's not such a dark fury. Cradle is not a dark fury. I think it's a positive fury. So
there's hope. Just go for it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, interesting to hear their takes on the songs and a bit about the process. I mean, you know, what my comments were in the middle of it in terms of them needing a producer, like an actual producer. And it sounds like after this record, they did get an actual producer, right? That Nick Raskulinec's guy or whatever. He's the producer on their last two records, right? I imagine they're going to be better. I just do, because it's interesting that bands like this, like at this stage in their career, decide to not use a producer because they've been through the process so many times that they know what to do, because they just know what to do, right? They basically just need an engineer, right? And it sounds like this Paul Northfield guy is basically kind of the engineer producer, but hey, you know, like, we don't need your input on that, just record us, or just mix it right here, just like get it sounding like this, and no, yeah, nice idea, but yeah, we want this, we're paying you for this, so I don't know, it's weird. In a way I can go either way, but I think that having the right producer is the way to go, really. Having the right producer is the way to go, and that can be a tough thing. Because you have to work together to find out if they're right or not, because you may like them, right? You may like them just like on a personal level, you may get along, but if there are ideas and how their approach to music doesn't match your band or your music or anything like that, then it really doesn't work, right? It could become and make it become something that it's not, which would not only throw you off, it would throw the fans off, things like that, right? It's also interesting that they talk about, like they didn't like the sound, he didn't like the sound of the record, and it's like, yeah, a producer, like if I were producing you, I would have been like, yo, play the bass. Like, no, play one note at a time. Please play one note at a time. No, this chordal part's really cool, keep that, but during this section, play something different. Okay, you know what? Keep your chordal parts. I want you to also track a bass part. And then you can see how they blend, how it works. Maybe then you can keep one and pull the other, like kind of show them what you're trying, how you're hearing it, what you're trying to produce for them. Because, like I said, practically the whole damn record, it just sounds like there's a third guitarist. It doesn't sound like there's a bass player. It sounds like the bass is missing. The bass plays such an integral part in music, and it's missing on this album. I should probably be getting into this in my overview, so I'll just leave it there. That is if I remember to talk about it in the overview. I'm sure I will. Anyways, this is very cool. We got part 2 coming up. Be sure to check that out. I'll catch you then.